actually the first female.
We are live, by the way.
Wow.
Stoker
we're
in the
live.
Royal Canadian Navy. She's in charge of their
We're live,
engines there.
In theory, we are live.
So she's at some really to
Right, let me check.
pick
Yeah.
up with and try and get that
on my channel.
Because is it
Start
live?
check.
Yep, just checking.
You are live now.
Hello everyone. Hello. So this is live from the engine room on the Sullivans, hence with this colour. And we are joined by the lovely Shane, who's from the Sullivans team. And basically, first thing to announce, once we're only going to be doing this for roughly 20 minutes. And secondly, all of the money which you donate to Super Chats, etc., is going to the Sullivans. Okay, we've set this up impromptu because we're aboard today, and we are literally doing this for you to basically chat about, well, the Sullivans.
Yeah.
Now that I'm going to hand over to these two.
Oh, not for anything else.
Thanks.
We're in a giant tin can in a really, really warm environment. So, if we stay down too long, we will just parboil.
So, hence 20 minutes, okay? In a nice way. I will look like a lobster.
It's not that sunny in Buffalo today, so that's, but these Brits, they're fair skin,
Yeah. It definitely. Lobster. So, well, first off, you did an amazing job. Everyone was telling us it was terrible. It was going to, and I've been crawling all around the engineering space, and I'd like to point out, look, yes, I've got slightly dirty hands, but that's it. They've been cleaning, it's been preparing, and you've been. She looks
Thank
good.
You. Thanks. Thank you. I appreciate it, Drac. That's it's coming from you guys. That's important. We a lot of times during the Save the Sullivans incident, people were saying you're taking too much time. Start working quicker. And what we were doing was we were being deliberate, very deliberate, taking our time, making sure the refloat plan was the right plan. We kind of worried about her keel, breaking in half. If we took out water from section A, B, or C, which is how they designated it, the responders designated it, like they would have done, in World War II. So everything was done very deliberately. It took a little bit longer, but once she started to refloat, that only took about 3 to 4 hours. So, and then the cleaning was the same way, very deliberate, very conscious of what they are dealing with in terms of, a ship constructed in 1943 and the artifacts that are inherent to the ship, the engine, the engines, the turbines, the throttle board, and being very conscious of that.
Yeah, I mean, when you look around, bear in mind, obviously, for viewers, the ship, where we're standing, was underwater.
Yes.
Yes, it was.
And you would have had a mixture of river sludge, the other unfortunate human detritus that ends up in rivers these days, fuel oil, grease, probably what? 70
Diesel.
I have to say,
70,
you use
80 years
the
of
nicest
prime.
word to describe it. Every time we talk to Shane, they describe it as product,
Yes.
which is the nicest euphemism you've ever heard for what is basically
Yes.
scudge.
Yeah.
But
Very
a lot of this, for obvious reasons at the time, was painted white, and for the most part, it still is white now.
Yes.
There's a few grease marks and everything, but the fact that we are not in a monochrome at the moment.
And the fact that we are not having to wear specialist suits, we're not wearing fancy masks.
Yeah.
I am in jeans and trainers, that is all, and I have been crawling everywhere because, thanks to legacy of my dad's training, I'm designated crawler.
He taught you well.
You've done work really hard. You even showed us the engine, the fire control spaces, and we've got some video from that which will come up at some point in the future. We've got the fire control spaces have had to be cleaned out, especially the computer, and the components are all fine.
Yes.
They look, okay,
Thank
I
you.
wouldn't want to use them to actually shoot anything, though.
Right.
But they are for something which has been under what it's obviously been, and what has obviously happened to it. It was clean to touch. Our medic was going, this is not gory, this is fine.
And also,
We had Dr. Dan with us, of course.
going back in history, it's also a testament to the people who originally built the ship.
Yeah.
The fact that it didn't just collapse into rust, hope, and
Right.
splinters as soon as it took on a heavy load.
Right, we have a question.
Yeah, so a couple of questions here first. So, American Potato named Phil has just donated £10 to the Help Donate, and so is Crowbert 79.
Thank
So
you.
that's
Thank you,
great
Crowbert and
donations. Good question here that comes up a few times. How long do the museum think it will take to restore the ship?
That's a great question. Thanks, everyone. To restore this to where it's tourable and she's electrified again using her original electrical panels, which is right there, We're probably looking at not opening again the Sullivans until next season. All right, the main deck, we are discussing right now that if the main deck can at least be open to visitors in 2022. But to have her fully electrified, get people down below decks onto the first platform, second platform, we're probably looking at next season. So,
And the other big question that's come in is what shape are the engines and turbines in?
Well, we're standing in them.
We are in the turbine room. If the signal would actually work, I would take you in there and show you the turbines.
We're
They're there.
basically in a holy zone where there's a little hatch open, so the giant Faraday cage that is a Fletcher class destroyer is not actually blocking our
we
signal.
have 4G. We have the bare minimum for doing this.
so enjoy it.
Another question. How long would it have taken them during the war to get a ship that had been dinged up this badly back into service? Because I know HMS Belfast took about 4 years during
Wow.
the war to get back into action.
Well,
that's
She was
long.
about the
Yeah,
best crew that we had.
Yeah, it would take a while. It depends on the size of the ship, the scope of damage. If you consider HMS Eskimo, Tribal class destroyer, so equivalent sort of in size, was back in service with a new bow after roughly 3 months. But she did consider her bows expendable. She's weird like that.
There's also
She's
the
a sister ship of Hyder, which is just up the way and where we were yesterday. And for a ship like this, Fletcher, she would probably have actually been dealt with mostly by the forward. They'd have looked after her as close as they could forward and
Yeah.
have got to clean up. But also you have to remember, she would have had the advantage that she would have had several hundred crew aboard who would have been at watch, and therefore they would have started damage control immediately. So there would have been things very different. This is a museum ship. There are spaces made for people to walk around. Believe it or not, these lovely gangways, when you walk through museum ships, they're far nicer than they are on the real things at this time. At the real things at this time, you would usually be sort of more monkey moving rather than walking on a nice walkway. And these things
That's a
are all
great
put in for visitors to get round, because you're not all 18 to 22-year-old young guys at full work. So this is what we've got going on, and this is what you've been given as well, because I'm sure a lot of people will be going, well, you know, she should have been gone to action stations and this and
Oh,
that.
sure.
You
Yeah.
would love to have the staff to be at action stations.
Yes, absolutely. But you know, given
Sorry, I'm just putting it on Do Not Disturb because some people are sending me direct messages whilst we're doing the stream, which is causing the phone to go ping. And of course, because the ping is right next to the microphone, people are just like, ah. So yeah, sorry about the chimes. That's
Yeah.
that's
No, thank
that's
you.
the notification
I
system.
was checking mine was on silent as well.
Yeah, that's always one of the biggest questions we got is, you know, what condition was she in? Well, if you look just forward of here, sorry folks, not for you, but with the crew here, Alex and the crew, that door was not there in service.
Yeah.
We added that to make the aft fire room and the aft engine room available for visitors. The door we came out here aft, leading to the machine shop, was not originally there. So we have cut it for ventilation, we've cut it for passageways. Yeah, we've certainly put down this diamond plating as opposed to the grates, the narrow grates that or the grating system. So
Yeah, because normally, if we can shake, because we're not small guys, but we can stand almost. Oh, actually, we could probably get Shane in here as well.
There you go.
And see, we can stand across the walkway.
They're not like that normally. They're not. It's usually I'm doing this and like this.
Yeah, and the other thing you've got to bear in mind as well is obviously in wartime, things like environmental regulations don't exist.
No.
So if let's say equivalent damage, I guess would be something like, let's say a kamikaze had splashed down and nearby the bomb had detonated, it forced open a bunch of plates, you've got the flooding, over goes the Sullivans. They managed to make sure it doesn't go into the Pacific, tow it back home. At that point, as soon as the water's out, it would have been everyone overalls on, get down there, get cleaning, 300-400 guys. Yeah, you're going to be coming up and basically burning anything they've worn that day.
Right.
And then they're going to come back and do it again the next day and the next until it's ready to go. So wartime equivalent is going to be a lot faster than these days, where smaller number of people, and the law now requires you
Yeah.
to actually make sure it's mostly clean of the worst of the stuff.
Yes.
You're
Yeah,
up there
and-
doing.
And also, you have to be very careful because you've got all this historical stuff which you can be worried about being damaged by modern cleaning products. So you probably have to. It's probably almost a case of you have to test, then clean.
yeah, we worked very closely with Miller Environmental, who was the cleaning a company that we worked with. And so we would sit down with meetings in them to say, these are what's already on board and inherent to the ship. And this is why the products, you're the expert in the product, we're the expert of what's going on board and what the products are that are on board. And so we would work together to say, these are the products that will solve what we're looking to solve.
Yeah, and obviously with it, as you say, it being a historical thing, you've got the switchboards, the fire control computers. Realistically, in wartime, if the fire control computers got full of gunk and grease and water and everything, they would just gone, right, where's the next new one coming off? Right, you lot cart it out, you lot put that one in, job done, probably a day or two. With it being a historical artifact, you can't do that because there isn't another
There
Mark
isn't
56
another one,
sitting on the
right.
deck side. And you've also got to be a lot more careful about cleaning it out, because even if they were going to refurb a damaged one, they take it ashore and it would be done in a facility, whereas this one has to be refurbed in situ, basically.
Yes, very true, very true.
You can't afford to break it. So yeah, it will take time, but the important thing is to make sure it's done properly rather than quickly.
Yes, and that was the whole incident, working with the Coast Guard, the environmental, the marine company, the salvage company, is take your time and do it right. So there's only one of these, right, here in Buffalo, and certainly only one of the Sullivans that's a museum ship. So we had to make sure that we had one chance to do it. So
It's a special ship. And it is, I will say this, having walked around it, and I'm sure many people who have visited over the years, there is an atmosphere on this ship, walking around. There are some preserved museum ships I've been to where they feel very clinical, they don't feel like they were a warship ever at all. This one, you sort of look around and you half expect to see bell-bottoms walking towards you in groups and wandering around, and you half expect to see the crew there, because it does still feel like it's got the crew aboard in spirit, if not in, well, you'd have loved them in reality when it happened, but it does feel like still the ship.
yeah,
If that makes sense. 'Cause
it does.
to me, a ship is always as much about its crew as the ship itself, and it's the combination of the two that makes the ship.
Very true, and that's the story we'd like to tell here, is not only the crew, the importance of the family, right? The 5 brothers, their parents, the generations down now with Kelly Sullivan, being such a wonderful advocate for her own ship and this ship, and then the sailors that were aboard, and we try to combine that into educating and honoring.
Which I think answers the question. The question literally came in as you were saying that. Has anyone from the Sullivan family visited the ship, and will there be anything on the ship to honor the 5 Sullivan brothers? Which pretty much
Okay,
that
yes.
is
You
it, isn't
have
it?
the flag, don't you?
Well, we have the 5 Gold Star flag that we fly, her battle flag, that DDG 68 also flies, an active duty USS the Sullivans. We took the wardroom, and that's now the Sullivans Memorial Compartment. So we have a lot of things from the family, letters that Alita Sullivan wrote to this crew that she called her boys, because her boys were killed. And so we have things from the church that the boys attended, so we really make that the officers' wardroom, the memorial to the family. And Kelly Sullivan, she comes around once a year.
Yeah, and the other thing to remember is, of course, guys, the Sullivans herself may not be accessible, but the Buffalo Naval Park has one other ship, one boat, before the veterans online come and throttle me. So you've got USS Little Rock.
Yes,
Right,
USS
She's
Little Rock.
lovely and very cool to wander around, and I'll be doing a lot of videoing on her in a bit.
And of course USS Croker just over by the bow,
Yeah.
which it was obviously a sub. So if you want to come and visit, obviously please do so. You still do get to walk across the fantail of the Sullivans as you go over to Little Rock, and you can walk around on the pier side so you can see her from the exterior. And of course, obviously anyone who comes and visits and spends money at the park is also contributing to
Absolutely.
the restoration of the ship.
Of course.
We've got another question, actually, that's very kind. Ethan Wilson basically put in the maximum amount you can put in on a YouTube super chat.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Ethan, what's his name? Ethan? Thank you, Ethan.
Thanks,
Yeah.
Ethan. Yeah.
He said he was wondering, was any damage done to the superstructure and or the dock when the ship rolled?
We did have, right below the torpedo deck, one of the stanchions was rested when she hit the bumper. So we do have a stanchion coming down from the torpedo deck that has been dislodged, so to speak. But as of right now, other than the radio room shifting a little bit up there, nothing in the pilot house really got moved. But if something was on port, it certainly slid off a shelf and hit the deck, so to speak. But in terms of water incursion, product incursion that was mentioned earlier, nothing of the sort.
That's still the most polite way to phrase that. I'm going to use that on a future. The product incursion.
KPU Matt also says, question for the man on the left of the stream, so I think that's yourself, Shane. How does it feel working on a ship with so much history, and have you worked on any other ships previously?
Thank you for the question. It's funny, my training is in library science and archiving, so I went to library school. All right, so my original passion is industrial history. So when I started here, I had to really ramp up my Navy knowledge because I did not have much. But this is a job that's second to none. You talk to other museum ships, I'm sure you guys have, they love what they do. And it's for that special person, certainly, because these are living, breathing artifacts that tell a story in themselves, as was mentioned earlier. And you have to have that feeling towards the ship. It's not just you you get here at 8, you check out at 5 or whatever. These are always on your mind, and it's really, they really become part of you. And not everyone has that,
And as some of you know, I was in the States back in April. So when the Sullivans originally went over, I was aboard USS New Jersey. So there were things that had to be cancelled as a result, because obviously as soon as something dramatic happens in the historic museum ship community, the news is interviewing everybody who runs a museum ship to see what they think.
Yes.
And some of you will probably have seen the video I did on Battleship New Jersey channel with Ryan Szymanski at the time. That was within about 12 hours of the ship going over, asking everyone to please help out. So obviously, again, if you still can, there is obviously more work to be done here. But also, as you were saying just a minute ago about the fact that everybody who runs museum ships has a passion for it.
Yeah.
And that was very evident in those first few hours, because obviously New Jersey, clues in the name, is where it is, but lots of different people were ringing around and going, okay, the Sullivans, what can we do to help?
Yeah.
There's none of this kind of they've gone over, we're better than them.
Right.
It was kind of like, oh, okay, whether it's publicizing it, whether it's offering technical assistance. I mean, I did make a kind of a half joke on that video, like, we need someone who knows has lots of experience about getting water out of places it's not meant to be on a historical warship. Where's the line for USS Texas?
Right, absolutely.
Past masters of dewatering the
Yes,
ship.
absolutely. But
one thing I'll just quickly say, one of the reasons we wanted to come here was we wanted to be very helpful, and we do hope our visit will be helpful. But there's also, I've just been given the heads up, we've got 5 minutes more, and there is charges going down. So please, if you want to get super chats in, if you want to get questions in, it's about 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Sorry.
no, that's good. Thank you.
So
Thank you so much for being here, Alex, and the team. I mean, it's so very helpful to us for you guys helping get the word out, and using your resources that you've built over the last few years to talk about.
I do know there's at least one of our colleagues is going to be incredibly jealous of us being here. There's going to be Jamie going, why couldn't I come? Why wasn't I on this trip? And we're sorry to our Antipodean colleague. You couldn't come because you were the other side of the world.
David S. Cameron saying he wants me to narrate audiobooks. Well, if audiobook recorders, I mean, if we were going to do an audio version of Travel Battles and Downs, we can do that.
Yeah.
John C. says, paper documents, were there any logbooks or other paper records in the ship that came into contact with water, and if so, can they be saved?
Yes, thankfully not as many, because I've cataloged some in our library. Most of them that we have on board. We did have a quarterdeck log and an anchor log book that did get some water incursion. So what I did was we threw them in the freezer. And that's always the first step, not to kill the mildew, but to render it dormant. And then I'm going to be working with the conservator that we've contracted with to make sure that we can save those. But in terms of historical to the ship, to the time period, 43 to say 65, very few of the things were touched, thankfully.
And please do note that tip there about the freezer, rather than rice for thawing out paper-based products. Rice doesn't do it well.
Or quickly,
Freezer,
well, quickly enough.
quickly enough. Freezer better.
Freezer better.
96831, well, I'm guessing it's a fairly obvious answer. Is the museum going to be inspecting the hull for other possible weak points or breaches?
Yes, certainly. We in February of 21, we had an issue. We hired a company. They're going to be continuing the work that they started last year, last summer, to seal her in a 2-part rubber epoxy. And so 58 holes during this incident were plugged. And so that's 58 that our staff of 2 or 3 that work on the ship they don't have to worry about those. And then, but yeah, just starting next week, the company's going to come back and continue with the epoxy.
So obviously we are running out of time, so we're just going to quickly start wrapping up here. Just a couple of quick ones that have come in. Is this truly live? Yes, because this is actually part of the Canada trip, but obviously Buffalo's just across the border, so of course we were going to come down here.
Mention the hashtag.
There is a hashtag to follow on the Canada trip, which is #NavHistCan22, and our 2 colleagues, Dan and what do you want to be called?
I'm John Bull.
It's John Bull online. Have been doing a massive job tweeting out and tweeting stuff we've been doing and trying to get attention to the ships, because that's what our whole reason of doing this trip is, to bring attention to these wonderful ships and make sure they're getting preserved and getting supported they need, because the people on them want to preserve them, the people who are involved in them want to fight and preserve them, but they need a larger community. You know, we always talk about it takes a community to raise a child. It takes a very large community to preserve what is a very large child.
I'll do a thread of quick images when I get up on deck.
Yeah, then there's so people asking about the pumps. Well, the fact is, this is a museum ship, so she doesn't run her main engines all the time.
Correct.
Or well, at all.
Never.
And if a ship in wartime is at general quarters, the engines are going to be providing the main power to the pumps. There are obviously portable diesels and everything, but that requires a crew to be on board to actually activate them all. Most museum ships these days are running almost entirely off of electricity, which is fine up until you get something catastrophic happening, at which point water and electricity don't mix. And then the pumps that are powered by the electricity stop working, so it becomes a bit of a circular feedback loop, which is obviously a bit of an issue. And someone else saying, is there anything in the future planned to help maintain the Little Rock dry dock, whatever that happens to be?
Well, all 3 of our ships have to be dry docked, and so we're kind of doing the Sullivans, then Croker, then Little Rock, and we've established a kind of a disaster plan for the Croker and for the Little Rock as well, and concurrently working with one for the Sullivans too. So moving forward.
Yeah. Okay. So obviously, this we do have other bits of the ship to film, so that there will be a much longer video about this in the future. And so we're going to wrap up the live stream in the next couple of minutes. But obviously, just say, of course, well, if you happen to be in the Buffalo area, we are going to be here till pretty much park close. So obviously,
and then we're going hunting for buffalo wings.
Yeah, you can't come and hunt us down in the Sullivans, but once we're done filming here, you can probably.
We're doing the other ships.
If
you can find me on Little Rock, I will quite happily say hi.
Yes.
So we are physically present. Obviously, there's the Buffalo Naval Park website. You can also donate there to help the Sullivans out. Of course, all the super chat revenue, etc., from this live will be going to the Sullivans once YouTube's processed it, and I'm sure we can probably come up with some other ideas as well. And as we do, in the future.
Basically, we've walked into the room and all of the team have started going, right then, what can we do to help? And this is, again, another great thing about this trip. We have a great team who've wanted to come with us, and we're all trying to help, and hopefully we will be helpful.
There's no doubt about it, guys. It's so appreciated.
All right, thanks very much, everybody. I'm now going to reach over and try not to drop my phone deep into the bilges
Don't
of
drop mine either.
the. Oh yeah, that
I'll grab yours.
You grab that one. I grab this one.
I had blink.
Yeah, I've been down. I have been down to the lower frames of the keel. I do not want this thing going down in there. Right now, how do I do this? Right, okay. See you guys later. Apologies if there's some awkward fumbling going on while I try and figure out how to turn this thing off.
That's what she said.
Oh.